that, don't I? The heck is this? Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Talking Elite. Tonight, we are talking about a very special kind of gimmicky match in pro wrestling. It's all over the place in pro wrestling, and since it's January and it's Rumble season, we're going to be talking about Rumble-type matches. We're going to talk about all different types tonight from different promotions. We'll talk about what we like about them, you know, the winners, the losers, you know, and everything that we would have changed about it. Excuse me. But before we get to that, let me introduce you guys to our panel tonight. First, joining us from the Midwest, she is the Chicago-born, Green Bay raised. She is the cue card.
Hold on, wait a minute. I'm the cue card queen. Hang on.
Okay, you're the cue card. You can take the girl out of Chicago.
And you probably know what's coming next after that. Hold on.
Yeah, but you can't. But not Chicago out of the girl. That's true.
And we have Chicago out of the girl. Now, everybody always wants to know about this one.
Let's go Cowboys. Interesting.
Uh-huh. Okay. Because, you know, I'm a Bears fan.
Yeah, no. Beat the Packers. Yes. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Gone but not forgotten.
I got to get better paper for this. Sorry. And I'm also.
You know what? It's fine.
Okay.
Brody Lee. Yep. I agree. Jay Briscoe. Yes.
Next Wednesday. And I'm wearing my Jay Briscoe shirt to work with my favorite sweater that goes with it. In honor of Jay. And actually Wednesday is also the day my grandmother, who got me into pro wrestling, passed away. So it's just kind of full circle, kind of that Jay Briscoe passed away. And it's been 1 year on the same day that my grandmother passed away, who got me into pro wrestling.
Right. Well, prayers and thoughts with that. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, joining us tonight is the Midwest girl who's Chicago, but Green Bay. Ladies and gentlemen, the cue card queen herself, Miss Danny. Thank you for joining us tonight, Danny.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you're excited about this topic, as much as I am, because this is January, and January is the month of the Royal Rumble. Every year it has been. So we're very excited. Also, I just want to briefly put it over there, but we have Connor here tonight. Connor will be joining us here in a little bit. He just let us go live, so we will get to his thoughts and opinions on everything. But to start things off, I'll ask Danny this question since it's a fun topic. What is the earliest Rumble match? It doesn't have to be WWE or the Casino Royale. It be any Rumble match you can remember first seeing with your own eyes.
My husband and I were just talking about this, and that was the very first Royal Rumble circa 1987, or was it 88, when the one that was on USA Network with Dino Bravo's bench press and Jesse the Body Ventura was there, and that was the very first one that I remember watching.
Yeah, I believe that was 88 was the very first one.
Sounds about right.
Was the very first Royal Rumble they actually, had. I think I can vaguely remember 93, 94 Royal Rumble. I believe is the earliest I can remember. And I've enjoyed all the Rumbles. I enjoy gimmicky matches sometimes like that, or battle royals. And it seems like it's everywhere right now in pro wrestling. But it's fun to watch. I mean, it's a very fun gimmicky match, and there's stakes in the matches, and we talk about, WWE, their stakes are, hey, you win a title shot. Same with Casino Battle Royal. Hey, you win a title shot, So I'm very excited to talk about it. I will start off with this. Tonight, we're going to be going into a lot of depth in all the ones we talk about. I'm going to give everybody the rundown. Everybody in our group, there's joining us tonight, which is just Danny and Connor, I believe. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have Siren. She's feeling sick, so we hope she feels better. So, Siren, if you're watching, hope you feel better. But tonight we're going to go over basically 4 promotions that I have pulled that have battle royals. We're going to be talking about AEW and their casino battle royal that they have. We are going to talk about WWE, WWF, and their Royal Rumble. We are actually going to go talk about TNA as well. Impact Wrestling, TNA, whatever you want to call them. Their Call Your Shot Gauntlet. It is a Rumble style match that I actually love watching. And the last one I kind of pulled out of my rear end because I used to, but it was the, and I had it wrong in the first time, but it's the Lucha Underground Aztec Warfare. If nobody's been familiar with Lucha Underground, watch it. It is so much fun. I think it was on air between 2014 to 2018, 2019.
Okay.
It's a really fun promotion. Danny, did you do any research on Lucha?
I didn't on Lucha. No, I what I do know of it, I want to say it's like very based in like Mexico, from what I do know, and they wear the mask, which explains Rey Mysterio definitely wearing the mask. And I don't even know if you can even watch it where I live in Wisconsin, to be honest with you. I've never seen it, but I know a little bit about it. But again, living here where I'm in South Central, it's kind of like, we have it, but we don't have a lot of stuff here. We don't even have TNA. So I'm excited to see more of this. Just to see kind of what it's about, because it is fun to watch, and it's very different from your traditional wrestling, and also going back to your territories too, which again is very old school wrestling.
Yeah, and it's crazy because Lucha Libre has really been around for a very long time.
Yeah,
it didn't really become mainstream, I believe, until maybe early ECW days. When ECW kind of transferred over to that extreme style, but they brought Lucha Libre over. And it was really different because you had the wrestlers, you had Rey Mysterio,
right.
Psychosis, super crazy. You had all these guys come in ECW and actually like just put on super fun matches, and the crowd loved it. It was something they've never seen before.
Yeah.
And to many that don't know, Lucha Libre is actually a very it's very traditional, and it's very a tight-knit kind of style of wrestling. It's almost like it's a rite of passage in Mexico. It's like you almost have to earn your mask in the style. And I always bring it up because it's one of my favorite documentaries. It's called You Can't Kill David Arquette. I know we're going to bring it up, but David Arquette had that little craziness where he was in WCW and he won the world title, and basically people said that's the day that pro wrestling died, is when they gave the world title to David Arquette. What happened after that, Arquette is still a huge fan of pro wrestling. He talks about it, and he actually did it. So he made this documentary where he goes on this journey of kind of redeeming himself in the industry. He loses the weight, like he becomes very, like he's strong, like he becomes like bulk, and like he goes to Mexico and he does Lucha Libre, and he does it so well, they actually gift him a mask because it was his rite of passage. And he kind of redeems himself in pro wrestling. So I'm very excited to talk about that. So to start off, we'll talk about what you see in my background. And I'm going to try something new tonight, guys. I hope you guys like it. It's really a cool idea I came up with. I thought it would be a cool idea. But we're going to start off with AEW and their Casino Battle Royal. Now, the first one that ever premiered was Double or Nothing 2019. That was the first Battle Royal that was premiered as their very first pay-per-view, I believe, in Vegas, and they did a Casino Battle Royal because it was Vegas. So they had the glitz and the glamour. And for a lot of people don't know, they have have had individual, which is the 21, because Blackjack 21. Then they've had a tag team Casino Battle Royal, and they've even had a trios Battle Royal. So, Danny, my question for you is, do you think that's too many battle royals, or do you think it's good because they're giving many people opportunities to compete in the ring?
First of all, I just want to say, don't ever ignore the dog. This is what my boss's dog did today to the notebook when we were outside playing in the snow. So we're going to kind of go as best we can here. So, first question, I did some research again on the Casino Battle Royal, just like who won for Double or Nothing, and I noticed that Hangman won that first Double or Nothing Battle Royal, and then I wrote it down somewhere. Then there's a tag one too. Who won that tag one? Your tag one, your Death Triangle won that first tag one, and then your first trios is on here somewhere. Here. And I feel like to have the single one is great because again, I feel like you have more single competitors than you do tag teams. And then also with trios, I mean, the first time that I'm seeing trios since back in the 80s with the Freebirds, and you have that Freebird rule, obviously. AEW is like the first time that I've seen the trios. So I feel like having one for the singles is one thing, which is great. But I feel like it's taking it to a little extreme when you've got one for tag titles and you have one for the trios, because when you have a tag team, you're always going to have one that's a little bit stronger as a singles competitor. Like, for example, Rockers, for example, who was the stronger out of the two? Obviously, HBK over Jannetty. So when you do the trios, it kind of is the same thing with the trios. And I feel like, while it's fun to watch, it kind of takes away from the specialty of the match itself. Because it's kind of like, because you've got so many different people, you've got so many different personalities. And again, when you've got, your tag teams, historically look, even Hart Foundation, Bret Hart turned out to be the biggest single star than Jim Neidhart did. So again, you're kind of, when you do the tag ones, you're almost masking one person, but then really letting people see which one of that tag team is going to shine more than the other.
Right. And I think it's a rarity that you see tag team battle royals. I mean, there's certain promotions that do them, right? But it's a rarity that you see them a lot. I mean, AEW's only done one so far, three. They've done three, and their latest one was Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, one on episode Dynamite. They've actually only done one on a pay-per-view, and that was 2021 at Revolution.
Right.
So it's a rarity because nowadays you're seeing tag teams just makeshift put together. And it's Absolutely. Like, well, we need them because we need the team for the Battle Royal, right. But you still put on some good spots in the Battle Royals. And to be honest, I think that Casino Battle Royale, the concept was genius. Obviously small, but if you can see behind me, the rules are actually how they do it. So for a lot of people who don't know, who just basically just got into AEW or just here and want to know about AEW, the concept of the Casino Battle Royale is there's a group of people. Basically, it's I think it's 6 or 7 to a group, but they're deviated up in the card suits like casino. So there's hearts, there's clubs, there's spades, and then there's aces. But there's also a joker. The joker's always fun because you never know who the joker's going to be. Mm-hmm. It's always a surprise. Obviously, that draw for that first one was Hangman Page, and it just kept going with surprises at that joker spot. It was the same for the women. The women had 2 Casino Battle Royals, but they've only had 2 so far. And the last one was 2021, and that was All Out in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, just outside Chicago. And the joker on that one was Ruby Soho. That was the big shocker, so because Ruby had just left WWE and she came over to AEW and she was the surprise, the runaway, so it's a cool concept where they're all divvied up, but it's the same rules. You're over the top rope, both feet have to hit. Mm-hmm. So, but it's a really cool concept in itself because they're all split up into groups, and those groups start the battle. So, moving on to that, we're going to get into some other some questions here for you, Danny. Mm-hmm. The first question, I guess, to ask is, who is your favorite? I know there's only been 4, but who's your favorite winner out of all the 4 Casino Battle Royals that they happen in the men's?
I'm looking at my list now, and I'm gonna say for the singles, for the guys, the win, I guess I can answer it this way. Who I think got the best win, and I would say my favorite. Sorry, I'm reading while talking. I would say Hangman because one, I do like him. I think it was a good win for him, and it really elevated his character. The one who I feel like who also was a winner too, and this was all out 2020 was Lance Archer. But this is a guy who's again has got, and I'm just reading from my notes here. He's a big guy with massive size, good ring ability, but he's been booked terribly since that win. So what did that win do for Lance Archer? It absolutely, I felt like did nothing for him. Double or Nothing from May 21, Jack Perry won that one. The win did him some good. He had a connection, obviously, with the fans. And Luchasaurus as a face no longer has it. And then your most Kyle O'Reilly won looks June 2022. And then he was supposed to face Mox at Forbidden Door. And then he was sidelined with the neck injury. He's been gone for 18 months now. And if he hadn't gotten injured, I wonder, if he would, where he would be now following that win again, had he not been sidelined with that neck injury.
Yeah, it feels like they were really pushing it. I feel like with Kyle O'Reilly's win, it was kind of out of the blue.
Yeah.
I think it was a shocker to the fans because everybody, especially in that battle royal, I can't for the life of me remember who was in it, because it was Dynamite,
Yeah.
So, but it was kind of out of the blue because you're like Kyle O'Reilly, like how is he the winner? Like he's earning a title shot.
Right.
But I do agree that I do feel like the story with MJF and Kyle O'Reilly would still intertwine with Adam Cole somehow.
Yes.
Obviously. So you wonder where that would have happened if Kyle O'Reilly didn't get hurt. Now, I will say this. Right. My favorite individual winner actually was Jungle Boy in 2021 for many reasons. One, he was a fresh face. He was basically a pillar of AEW.
Yeah.
And they gave him a big win in that Battle Royal, and obviously you go on with that with him and Luchasaurus winning tag titles and all that stuff and everything. But it projected a lot of different stories for Jungle Boy. It projected his little feud with Christian Cage, obviously. Mm-hmm. It created the whole paradox of him, Luchasaurus, and Christian Cage working together, as a group. So there was so much, but it was just a young talent that you didn't give it to like a veteran or anything like that, not even an EVP. I think the biggest snub, though, was probably MJF in 2019 because he was brought in as, I get Hangman Page, it's a new promotion. You want to push the guys that are big names like that, like a Page, like a Cody, like all those guys that came in, like a Pac. They're pushing those guys because they're names. With MJF, that would have been a great start for him as a young rookie in that promotion, obviously being one of the first ones picked up in that promotion. And I think that's where you really could have gave him a push, basically pushing him to a different singles title, whether that be later on in the TNT title or, international title. But I always knew that he would be going up to bigger places for that big title. So on that note, who do you think should have won one of the Casino Battle Royals for the men?
Oh, I'm going to definitely say Max because I had heard about Max, from somewhere. I want to say it might have even been on Twitter. Somebody was talking about Max, or I heard about him somewhere, and I looked him up on YouTube, and I was just like, this kid is amazing. And this is when he was a heel, and he brings as a heel this, I don't know, this energy to that role. Like you think that's who he is in real life when he's most likely not, but he plays that rich, spoiled kid so well. And I would have loved to have seen him won a couple of those battle royals because I feel like he's one of the guys that you tune in just to hear what he says. And I mean, and you tune in to see him wrestle, but he's hilarious on the mic when he's insulting the crowd. He's fun to watch now, but I prefer him as a heel. So I would definitely have to say Max winning him would have been good. And like I said with Lance Archer, I feel like him winning, if he is booked right, it would be better, but definitely Max for sure. That's one of them. The second one, that if they would have separated him early, which I kind of see why they didn't, obviously would have been Wardlow, because he's a guy that you could see as a face of the company in the like as a future champion.
And it's not because you love him, but you just want to see him as a future champion.
Yeah. Well, no, and I mean, and he's a guy though that if you booked him right, he could be the face of the company if he wasn't in this and I'm going to say ridiculous faction, because we can't seem to figure out what to do with them. But I mean, look at Lance Archer. Lance Archer could be a face of the company if they booked him right too. If you let him wrestle more and actually gave him a storyline.
Right. So Connor, we are just talking about the Casino Battle Royal. We've been talking about, excuse me, about winners and biggest snubs in the Royal. So I'll go with you on this one. Who do you think was the best winner of the 4 men's Casino Battle Royals that they've had?
Let's see. I know Hangman's won one.
Mm-hmm.
Jungle Boy. Who was the other 2?
It was Lance Archer and Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah, that's right, Kyle O'Reilly. My favorite would have been Kyle O'Reilly. He wasn't supposed to win that. Like, I didn't see him winning that because he was the underdog. Like, he wrestled twice that night with a broken neck, which he doesn't get credit for that.
Yeah.
He wrestled through that with a broken neck. Kurt Angle shouldn't be the only one saying that now. AEW has their own person if he comes back. But Kyle O'Reilly for me, second will probably be Hangman, because first show, like, they're really building someone new. Not everyone knew who Hangman was at the time. But I gotta say Kyle O'Reilly, because he was the underdog in that. He wasn't supposed to win.
Yeah, and that really surprised me too, Connor, that he won. And, as you even said it, I was kind of cringing too, as you were talking about the neck injury. And, when he was in that match, if I remember that match correctly, he most likely was wrestling in some pain to wrestle twice and have that. And then his last, and I actually found this when I was researching, that his last match was on 6/8/22, which is the day he won, and then Forbidden Door. And then he's been gone since Forbidden Door 2022 because he needed the surgery.
I think he had 2 surgeries.
Yeah.
2.
And again, look at Kurt freaking Angle, broken neck, Kurt Angle wrestling. So, I mean, that's a really hard thing to do. But the fact that he did it and the fact that he won, I agree that, nobody saw this coming, and good for him that he won.
Yeah, I'm going to go off a tangent here too with the injuries. It's like, is that causing longevity to the wrestlers? Like, I know people are going to get hurt in the ring. Mistakes are going to happen. People are going to get hurt. They have to leave. They have to take the surgery. And it's smart because, yeah, it sucks because we're like, well, we want to see what happened if Kyle O'Reilly would have stuck around. But injuries do happen. And I think that, with the recovery, it does take some time. I mean, look at Adam Cole with his concussion. Look at Thunder Rosa with her back. It takes a while because doctors have to make sure that they're at that 100% and not risking their life in the ring for the sake of entertainment. But for that, with the winner, Connor, who do you think was the biggest snub in a Casino Battle Royal in AEW?
What do you mean snub?
So someone who was in a Battle Royal that should have won but didn't.
That's good. See, in the one that Jungle Boy won, I was actually going for Christian Cage in that one. But besides that one, did Lance Archer win the All Out 2021?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going for Brian Cage. So, yeah, it'd probably been Brian Cage. Probably. He's my favorite. One of my favorites. Christian Cage, Double or Nothing. Or, Christian Cage, Double or Nothing.
So we also had the women's too. We've only had two, both at All Out, one in 2019 and one in 2021. And the only winners from there were Nyla Rose in 2019 and then Ruby Soho in 2021. Danny, I know it's a 50-50, but if you had to choose to between one of those two, who do you think was the best win, the right choice to win either one of those battle royals?
I'm going to go with Ruby. I feel like, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ruby was part of a faction in WWE, but I don't remember which one. And
the Ruby Riot, the Riot Squad.
Riot Squad. And who was in that Riot Squad? It was Ruby Riot,
Liv Morgan, and Sarah Logan.
That's right. Okay. I knew Liv was in one of them, but I couldn't remember who the other one was. I feel like since Ruby's come over, number one, this is AEW's really given her a chance to shine. They've really given her a chance to wrestle. I feel like when she was in WWE as part of the Riot Squad, like for some reason, her abilities were just masked. Maybe it was just me, but I feel like her winning was a good win because she's a strong competitor in AEW. And I feel like AEW agrees not only with her look, but her style. Because I feel like when you think of the divas back in the day, like you think of Trish, you think of, Trish was the beautiful glam type. And then you had Lita, who was kind of the grunge type. I feel like to a degree, you've got a certain diva look that they're looking for in WWE. And I feel like with Ruby's like on the other side of that, but I feel like, too, that having her with Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan, I feel like that kind of masked her a little bit. Like she was kind of almost held down in a way. But with AEW now, she's free to do whatever she wants. And I love seeing her in AEW.
Yeah, Connor, what's your take on that? Ruby Soho coming over in 2021, being the Joker, winning that Battle Royal. You've heard Danny talk about the projection of Ruby in AEW now. What's your take on that win and how it's kind of followed Ruby in her career at AEW?
Yeah, that was her debut. That was her debut when she won, and she went against Britt Baker, which was a pretty good feud. That was if you go under AEW's best mic moments, you'll probably see her and Britt Baker. That was one of the best women's right after All Out. I think in AEW she's gotten to show more of her and not her being in a group. Well, she is in a group right now, but before she was in the group, she really got to show who she truly was, and really got. I feel like she puts better matches on in AEW when she's given the chance than in WWE. I like her look better in AEW. I like her.
Oh yeah.
Everything seems more of her. Ruby Riott does come off like Ruby Soho, but just the character in general is really. Yeah, she's called Ruby Riott, but there's not really anything to riot about. I mean, so Ruby Soho is what Ruby Riott should have been. But yeah, she's put on a lot of good matches. I'm glad that she's currently being used in a feud right now with Angelo Parker and Saraya. I'm curious to see how all that unfolds. Yeah, I think she'll hopefully one day she'll be a women's champion or TBS champion, but I feel like in AEW she's able to show more of who she truly is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I remember seeing her on the Indies as actually Heidi Lovelace. So that was her indie name. And she actually really hated the name. Like she disliked that name totally. But I was actually at the last show that she performed under the Heidi Lovelace character before she signed with WWE. So it was really cool to see her perform in the ring as something that she truly could be, because what you see now as Soho is what she was as Heidi Lovelace in the independents. Sure. WWE, I felt like they watered her down too much, putting her in a faction because they didn't know what to do with those three. So they're like, let's just put them in a faction, see what happens. Mm-hmm. So really cool seeing Ruby, and that's why she's my pick for the correct the winner, like the best winner out of those two. But from that too, you also had someone in that match that I actually picked as a snub that could have won and actually had pretty much where she's at now, still a fan favorite, even though she's out, is Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter was in that 2021 Battle Royal.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would have loved to see her win, because when Ruby came out as the Joker, you kind of went, oh, well, she's the Joker. She's going to win now. It was almost like predictable once she came out. You're like, well, you can't have her debut and not win this. So it was kind of taking a back seat. A lot of the girls in that ring where they're like, crap, now, she's got to go over. She's new, big name. So we got to give her. But I think that would have been a great start for Jamie Hayter too, if she had won that Battle Royal, as far as the projection of what she's at now, being a crowd favorite, a one-time women's champion, which I think she'll come back and be a two-time soon when she's back from injury. So I honestly think Jamie Hayter would have been a great choice to win that 2021 Women's Battle Royal. Danny, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I do too. I do like her, Jamie Hayter, and I agree too that Ruby, Soho, I almost said Ruby Riott, but Ruby Soho debuting as the Joker, you got to think, hey, this is a gal that, some people might have wanted her in AEW. And when she came over, I mean, nobody expected this. Number two, I do like Jamie Hayter, and I do agree with you, Adam, that she was snubbed because Jamie Hayter does have that ability. She's a great wrestler. I miss her now that you think about it, and hope she's doing well. But again, Jamie Hayter would have been a good choice. And then the question, now that we're thinking about debuts, there's stuff going around again that Sasha Banks is on her way to AEW. There's speculation that it's going to be in the next couple weeks. What do you guys think of? There was like another Casino Battle Royal and Sasha Banks popped up as the Joker. How would you guys feel about that? What would you think of that happening?
Connor, I'll let you take that one first, bud.
Personally, I'm not really a big Sasha Banks fan, never really have been, but I like her in-ring work and stuff, but I've never really been a big fan of her. But I think if she comes, it'll be a Revolution. I think they're gonna save that for a pay-per-view.
Sure.
I don't think they're gonna like, everyone's speculating that it's gonna be on kind of like last night. Everyone's saying, well, she's gonna be back, like that's definitely where she's gonna be. Like they're not gonna. There's not really been any big hints from her besides her social media stuff. It hasn't really been on screen anything that leads people to thinking that she's coming. But I think if she comes, it'll be at Revolution, or she could come before then. But if they did another Women's Casino Battle Royal, that kind of be the perfect spot to put her in as the Joker.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to see another Women's Casino Battle Royal with all the new women that they've just signed. And it seems like there's a little, I wouldn't say a women's revolution in AEW, but maybe a movement starting.
Yeah, no, I was going to go off of what you were saying, Connor, with debuting at Revolution. And my idea was, I know we would talk about maybe like, oh, they have another women's, but how about this as a revolutionary thing for AEW, since other promotions do it? How about a woman's Face of the Revolution ladder match? Ooh. I mean, it'd be a first. Yeah. It'd be a first for AEW. It'd be something different for them, Yeah. And like you said, with all these new women coming over, you got a big roster of the female talent, not only from AEW but Ring of Honor. You've got Ring of Honor girls coming over to AEW and performing on TV for them. So you've got this big bloated roster of female wrestlers that you could try something new. And I guarantee you, every single one of those women would be like, yeah, let's give it a try. We want to try something different. We want to be more out in front there again, in AEW. So I wouldn't mind seeing it where at Revolution, maybe they debut the first ever women's Face of the Revolution women's ladder match and have Mercedes Moné debut, not as a competitor, but all just after the match, when the person who wins it, Moné comes out and like has a stare down with her.
I like that.
It's almost like a good booking idea of how you debut her.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that idea, Danny?
I like that. I'm getting that mental visual. I do like that idea. I think that would be good. And I agree with Connor. I can't see somebody like Mercedes Moné debuting on Dynamite. One, if she did, I mean, okay, great. She's on Dynamite. Oh, yay. You know, we're sitting in the stands like, okay, we're here. But now if she debuted at Revolution, that's going to be like, I mean, it would just be amazing. But then the question too, supposedly again, and I want to circle back to her debut, is that she's asking too much money. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I like the idea of her debuting at Revolution. I also like the idea of that match because it's something different, something unique, and it would be an interesting, storyline to start upon her debut.
No, I totally agree. Quick take from you, Connor, on the idea of Mercedes Moné debuting at Revolution, like you said.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Personally, for me, if it happened, I would. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't be upset. I'm just not. I will say she is better than Brina Shafir. That's 100% guaranteed.
I was just gonna bring up that name, Connor, and you beat me to it.
But I mean, yeah, I like Mercedes, but she's not like someone that. But a lot of people will compare it to CM Punk's debut. I've seen people on social media saying like, well, they did
Sure.
CM Punk well, but CM Punk was like a big, like they booked the United Center. It's in Chicago. Then they titled the first dance. Then there's all these rumors, and then people's trolling everywhere. You don't know what's going on. It doesn't have that feeling, so it's best to do it at the pay-per-view, and then on that Wednesday, hopefully, it'll be a big draw for Dynamite. So personally, I would like to see it Revolution if it happened.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So moving on, we're gonna finish up here with the Battle Royal. We'll move on to the comments and then the next Royal. But for picks, you guys, I know there's only been 4 men's. There's been 2 women's. There's been, I think, 3 tag and 1 trios. Out of all of them, which, and you could pick the event that it's at or which one, but which Battle Royal, Casino Battle Royale was your favorite, Danny?
Oh, I'm gonna have to say, I'm gonna go back here. I just got it. My mouth till notes. I had a long day today with dogs and a 3-year-old. I would have to say probably, if I had to pick, honestly, from the 3, honestly, I don't know which one was my favorite.
Do you want me to come back to you while you think?
Yes, please.
Connor, which Battle Royal was your favorite?
Probably the first one, Double or Nothing 2019. It was a breath of fresh air. The first match, really, in AEW history. Tommy Dreamer was in it. AC Romero, who knows who that is. Who else? Glacier, for whatever reason, he was in there, but he was there. Who else was in that? Fun fact, Ken Shamrock and Brian Cage was supposed to be in that, but currently Brian Cage was contracted to Impact, so they didn't let it happen. But that would have been cool to see Ken Shamrock and Brian Cage in there. But it's probably that one or the one right before Forbidden Door in 2021, 2022.
Double or Nothing?
It was one that Kyle O'Reilly won.
Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
The Kyle O'Reilly one was one on a Dynamite.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. It was JP won Double or Nothing, May 2021.
Andrade made his return from an injury. It's probably, I'm going to go with the one that Kyle O'Reilly won. That was my favorite.
Okay. And Danny, did you figure out which one was yours?
I would probably say Double or Nothing, the May 2021, largely because I remember watching that one. The other 2 I missed for some reason, but I would say the Double or Nothing May 2021, that would have been my favorite.
I'm actually going to have to agree with you. That one was actually my favorite for many reasons. The card was actually pretty good for that pay-per-view in general, but the participants in that Battle Royal was really awesome because, like you said, Connor, you had Christian Cage in there, and that kind of planted the seeds for the Christian Cage, Jack Barry kind of thing. I mean, then you had guys like Powerhouse Hobbs, Dustin Rhodes, You had Preston Vance in there. You had Isaiah Kennedy, Matt Hardy. You had Colt Cabana. And then obviously the Joker, which was a shock because of all the stuff that he does, is Leo Rush. I think that was a shocker. I didn't think I would see Leo Rush in AEW at all.
Yeah, I remember that.
Him there was really cool. And like I said, I think it was the cool winner was Jungle Boy because you didn't expect him to win. You know, you have all these big names like a Christian Cage, like a Matt Hardy, all these other guys. And Jack Perry ended up winning that one. So I will say that 2021 Double or Nothing Battle Royal was my favorite. So before we move on, let's go ahead and go to the comments. I know a lot of people have been leaving some comments, so we want to get to you guys, let you guys be noticed. Fox, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you watching. Jesse, yes, background. Like I said, I'm trying something different tonight with all my backgrounds. Will be cool. Steven, my beard's okay. It's not the greatest. Yes, Siren. That was the info I gave about Lucha Underground. So Davis says, I hope MJF comes to. I'll be totally honest. I don't think he's going to WWE.
No.
I'll be totally honest. I think it's just a rumor mill because he's going to get lost in the shuffle there.
He really is.
So, and honestly, I think he just loves WWE or AEW too much to leave. I mean, he basically ran title for a year. They literally gave him the biggest title for a year. So I don't think MJF is going to leave for WWE. Clark said, yeah, I love Soho's character. Soho's character is much better than her Ruby Riott.
Yeah.
Storm versus Hater at Revolution. Ooh, that's a good. What do you guys think of that one? You guys think that one would be a good match?
I've been fantasy booking that for over a year now. So, and she's supposed to be cleared in March, and Revolution's in March.
Yeah. Davis, I do like that idea too.
I mean, we could see a double debut or a double thing at Revolution where a return of Hater and a debut of Mercedes. Who knows? Jesse also says All Out 2019. That was and then same one, Kyle O'Reilly. Yep. So so thank you guys for commenting on that. We're gonna move on now to WWE. Obviously it's January. We got the Royal Rumble coming up. So with that being said, let me go ahead and show you guys basically what I have decided to do. Bam. Okay, so
love it.
I know. So something different. So I'm going to go just different backgrounds for everything. But we do the Royal Rumble. For a lot of people who don't know, WWE, back when it was WWF, that debuted the Royal Rumble back in 1988. Danny and I were just talking about that when we came live, and we were talking about it. Basically the same thing with every other promotion. You're guaranteed a world title if you win the Royal Rumble. There was one exception, and that was the one in 92 where Ric Flair won the WWF title in that Battle Royal. And then it happened again, I believe, in 2015, 2016, when Triple H won it from Roman Reigns. So, but it's basically 30 men, same concept as the Casino Battle Royal. Go over the top rope, both feet hit the floor. They did debut a women's Royal Rumble in 2018, and I guess I'll ask Danny. That was part of the revolution of women's wrestling in WWE. I don't know if you watched it, but do you think it was the right step by giving the women their own Royal Rumble in 2018?
I do, because when you go back to the days, again, of the territories, or as the British would say, the territories, go back to the days of the territories. Go watch, old episodes of Primetime on the network, which, again, I could binge watch that all day. But, go back to the days of Fabulous Moolah. You had Sherry Martel, you had Leilani Kai, you had Judy Martin for another one, Wendy Richter, Rockin' Robin. Not only did they look different, they looked older. I don't know, maybe because I was a kid back then, but they looked very different. They weren't athletic, and they weren't doing a lot of the moves that you see today. In fact, women's wrestling back then was virtually non-existent. Like, you'd watch, Primetime or whatever, and you'd see the women wrestle maybe every so often. But now, with the Me Too movement and, with women's liberation and the revolution and, this whole empowering women, we've really changed wrestling considerably. I fondly remember as a kid watching something called Glow. like back in the day. And I'm an 80s kid. And I remember stuff like that. And I'm thinking, wow, that is pretty cool. I never thought about going to wrestling school. If I was smart, I would have majored in communications and I'd be in AEW working as a valet or yelling at somebody. But yeah, I think it's really changed. And I think it was pretty cool for WWE to give women their own Royal Rumble to show the guys, hey, we can do this just like you. The moves you do, we can do it too.
Yeah, and it's a great concept too. The Royal Rumble when it came out in 1988, it was an interesting concept that I don't think a lot of people thought about. That hey, you could do a battle royal, but you could get a prize at the end. And before when they did battle royals, it was more so for like pride and like cash. But this one was like for a title. Connor, we talked about it at the beginning. You weren't here, but we were talking about the very first Royal Rumble you can remember. As a kid, do you remember the first Royal Rumble that you ever seen when you were growing up?
First Royal Rumble. It's probably the probably one of the Attitude Era ones. Probably with Stone Cold or the one with John Cena and Batista. I actually remember the first Royal Rumble. I watched every Royal Rumble, I believe. The first one, Hacksaw Jim Duggan won.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was Big on Stud, I believe. Yeah, it's probably one of the awesome ones because he won like 3 times in a row. Like he won 3 Royal Rumbles in a row, I think, or 3 consecutive times. It had to have been one of the Stone Cold ones. I'm pretty sure.
And like I said, I like you first time seeing it. I mean, what was your take of it? You were like, "Oh, this is pretty cool," or
what did I think of it? Huh, that's pretty interesting to think about it now. I guess for me, it was just the more wrestlers in the ring, the better. I guess I like I would always ask my uncle, why is all 30 of them not in there together? Because like he would have me watch these DVDs of the Royal Rumble. And this one in 2008, they were all in the cover together. So I said, like, why aren't they all in the ring together so they can stockpile the ring? But I like seeing like the surprises, or like the goofy ones like Doink the Clown making an appearance or something like that, or like just seeing a bunch of wrestlers in one ring kind of, I guess, made me like it.
Yeah, no, it was a cool concept when I first watched it, and like you said, I think the first one, 1988, it was Jim Duggan, and literally there's only been a select few that have won 3. I believe Hulk Hogan was one. I believe Stone Cold was one, and
Cena maybe.
No, I want to say maybe. I think Stone Cold might be the only man that's won 3. There's been a lot of double winners, but I think Stone Cold has been the only one that has won 3. If I'm wrong, correct me. I'm getting older, so my brain's going to mush. But talking about them, I bring this up. There's been so many. I mean, there's been a lot of them. So there's been a lot of winners, and there's been a lot of losers. So let's start off with winners. And for you, Danny, who was your favorite winner of any Royal Rumble that's ever happened in the history of
Okay, today's a pick 3 night. I picked 3. First one, HBK, because that really cemented his character as a total jerk. And that's what he was. And I think it also planted the seed for his character within DX when he won. So hands on HBK. Second one, Stone Cold. I mean, I'm getting the mental visual of the beer truck, for God's sakes. The beer truck. And the fact that you tuned in largely because you didn't know what Stone Cold was going to do. Stone Cold throwing the Rock's Intercontinental title off the bridge. That was flipping hilarious. The beer truck was hilarious. Fun fact, I was actually at, it was a Raw or SmackDown where Stone Cold held the gun on Vince McMahon.
Oh, no.
I was at that show and I was like 5 rows in. And if you go back and watch that episode. Was that a Raw or a SmackDown?
It was a Raw. It was a Raw.
If you go back, you briefly can see me on camera, like a quick second. So I was like literally right there at that show. And I think that was in Milwaukee, actually. So again, for Stone Cold, him winning the Rumble further cemented his character as one of the most over heels or a face. We don't even know what he was. He was like the martini that was stirred and shaken, but it was still damn good. That's just how Stone Cold. And then the last one, obviously Edge, and Edge for obvious reasons, because Edge is amazing. You know, again, to come back from his surgery that he has had, Edge is just one hell of a performer that still gives me chills 25 years later. So those are my top three.
Those are actually great picks. Edge is another one that I believe has won it twice.
Yeah.
So because I think he won it in 2010 and then during the pandemic year in 2020. Yeah. So that's some good picks right there. Connor, who would you say was the best winner of any of the Rumbles that you have ever seen?
So I actually came up with three. I was kind of brainstorming. She was doing it. So 2008 John Cena. He was out for a while.
Yeah.
Wow. And that was a really big John Cena. I didn't watch it live. I watched it on a DVD afterwards. But the John Cena return was huge because he was out
2008. Yeah, I remember that.
He dumped out everyone. Second one would have to, it was controversial, but Chris Benoit, because he was a mid-carder throughout WWE, and then scratching and clawing, then he'd get to the Intercontinental, and then he'd do US, he'd do tag, but he never could get to the big one. And then he finally gets some big wins, and he wins the Royal Rumble, and then he goes on the main event WrestleMania and beats Shawn Michaels and Triple H. But number one, my favorite of all time, was the one with Shawn Michaels and D.H. Smith starting the Rumble match and ending the Royal Rumble, and ending the Rumble match. It's kind of like the iconic moment when like Shawn Michaels' legs didn't, like D.H. Smith thought he'd won, and then both of his legs were like only one foot touched the floor, then he comes back and wins. So my favorite one of all time is probably Shawn Michaels and D.H. Smith.
That one was actually 95. I actually remember that one. That was a really crazy match because again, like you thought Shawn was out and then he only had 1 foot touch, so it's like, and they show that so many times during like highlights of Royal Rumble stuff. So for me, I have to say that now I have to do my three since you guys did three. So obviously, but obviously I'm going to have to start off with what my number one was. My number one was definitely Stone Cold in 98. That one was not even just that match itself. It was just the build towards the biggest babyface in WWF history in Stone Cold. It started basically with his Austin 3:16 promo at the King of the Ring, was basically the build of Stone Cold. Before that, he was the ringmaster. So it's like his build of this new character and like his face turn, because a lot of people remember saying, oh, we can relate to him because he's like a down blue collar kind of redneck kind of guy that just hates his boss. Like we're all that same way. So I think Stone Cold winning 98 really projected his big career, being one of the biggest baby faces in WWF history. For my second one, I'm actually going to have to go with a very, very crazy one, but I have to go with 2005 Batista. I think that was the right call.
Oh, I forgot about that.
The story was just right with him and Evolution breaking up. They had already kicked Randy Orton to the curb, and then Randy Orton was becoming heel. So they needed another baby face to basically feud with Triple H, and who better than Batista? And he was one of those guys that came out of the OVW class of 2002, 2003, with him, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Shelton Benjamin, like Randy Orton, like that was the perfect pick for someone to come out and win, which was Batista. And I was very happy. I laughed when it was like, oh, they both went over. So what happens? Double winner again. No, it wasn't even supposed to happen. And then here comes Vince blowing both his quads out while he's marching down. It's like, great, cool. So I'm like, great. But I actually did enjoy that. And actually the year after was my other favorite one, was when Rey Mysterio won it. And it was just cool because it was cool to see a little guy, because I'm only 5'6". And a lot of these pro wrestlers you see are like 5'9", 6 feet.
Yeah.
Like they're tall, they're big. So it's like it's great to see the little guy like win it. And it was very emotional because it was basically like months after Eddie passed away. And Eddie,
Right.
Guerrero, and Ray were just so close.
Oh,
And
God
so
bless Eddie's
for
soul.
me, it was very emotional. I was like, that was an awesome win for Ray because it was kind of like an honor to Eddie Guerrero, who never won a Rumble, who I thought should have won at least one before he passed away. So given that with the winners, we're going to go to people who you think should have won a Royal Rumble. So Danny, who do you think should have won a Royal Rumble?
Oh, I did a pick 2 for this one, and my first one, Wade Barrett. And I just kind of was really thinking about this, and I want to say I don't remember which one that was, and I feel like that might have been he was one of the final. Oh, wait a minute, yeah, he was okay. He was one of the final 4 when Alberto Del Rio won. If that's the one if I got my thing right, but if I wrote it down right, which I wrote it in a hurry, I'm just going to say Barrett again because the Nexus faction was intriguing. That was a very intriguing faction. I remember being actually at that Raw when John Cena supposedly joined the Nexus, and I was ringside for that too. I just couldn't see because I'm only 5'4", and I had this kid who was like about 10 feet tall in front of me. But again, Barrett as a heel was just. He was such a strong heel, and he had an air of conceit that would have made Lord Alfred Hayes proud. And when I say Lord Alfred Hayes, I'm going back again. I'm an 80s kid, early 80s AWA. Go back and go on YouTube and watch some of Lord Alfred Hayes' promos as a heel in AWA. He's this aristocrat, and he's just like this amazing work. And I just felt like Barrett was snubbed with that win with it going to Del Rio because I felt like Barrett was a stronger performer compared to Del Rio. My next snub, and I won't even explain it, is Kofi. This is a guy who literally has gone so close to elimination, numerous times, but still manages a way to keep his feet from touching the floor. Why hasn't this guy been pushed? I don't know.
So those are great picks. I obviously, like you said, Nexus was such a huge thing in 2011 that they could have gave their leader a big win and a big moment at WrestleMania, and instead they didn't, so they did the whole summer of Nexus and John Cena trying to save WWE from them. So, but yeah, no, I totally agree with your 2 spots. Connor, who do you think should have won a Royal Rumble match?
The Brooklyn Brawler. I thought he had a great character, and should have strike while the iron was hot. Same with Outback Jack and Doink the Clown. All those guys were just mega stars. But also, I think this is pretty. Kane never won one, right? He has the most eliminations of all time. And for him not to win one is kind of stupid. Like I think he still has that record for the most eliminations. I think combined, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question for us to put in the chat. And I just kind of sorry to interrupt you, but I'm looking at the chat right now, and Devin posted CM Punk for him. Did Punk ever win a Rumble? Do we know of?
No.
Okay.
Came really close.
And I actually Foley, I don't think never won one as well.
Oh,
yeah, I don't think he has either.
Wow.
Now I will say this though, I do have the numbers up here as we talk about winners that got championship opportunities. For the WWE Championship, 10 of the winners from the Royal Rumbles went on to win to the titles, 19 attempts. So out of 10, there was only 10 people that won out of the 19 attempts that had happened. For the World Heavyweight Championship, there was 5 victories from the Royal Rumble winners out of 7 attempts. And then for a Universal Championship, which was basically brand new, only one victory out of 4 attempts. But for me, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one, Connor. Kane was my pick as the biggest snub, and I'll tell you which year, 2001. That's when he had the most eliminations in a single Rumble.
Sure.
I think that's before. I think they had Roman Reigns break it though in a single Rumble. But he had it at that time. He had the record for it, and that 2001 run was so good for Kane. I honestly thought they should have gave it to him. Instead, I think they gave it to Stone Cold. Stone Cold won that 2001. And I would have loved to see Kane win that one and see where they would have gone with his, his character, and see him maybe win one more title. But he did end up going on and winning the World Heavyweight title. He did hold the WWE title for 24 hours back in '98 after he won a First Blood match against Stone Cold, but then lost it on Raw the next night. But I do think Kane should have had a good Rumble win before he completely hung up his boots. But I also did find the list for Royal Rumble winners, and it is true, Stone Cold was the only wrestler to win 3. The ones that won 2 are as follows: Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Brock Lesnar, Batista, John Cena, Randy Orton, and Edge are the only ones that have won 2. And as far as statistics go, the longest time in the ring, and this is not even including the Royal Rumble, the longest time in the ring in any Rumble belongs to our boy in AEW, the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, back when he was Daniel Bryan. He spent an hour and 16 minutes in the ring during the greatest Royal Rumble when they hosted it in Saudi.
Yeah.
And the one after him was Gunther, a.k.a. Walter, back in 2023, just last year, at an hour and 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So those are your statistics. And then real quick, last question. Like I said, they introduced the Women's Royal Rumble. So real quick, out of the ones that they've had, if you can remember, Danny, who do you think was the best winner in the Women's Rumble, and who do you think should have won it?
Best winner, I can tell you the worst one was Rousey, but best winner, good question. And I missed this one on the homework assignment. Honestly, best winner, I would say Rhea. Because I feel, the reason why is I feel like, one, she's just got this amazing dark energy about her that just suits her. And when she joined Judgment Day, I remember seeing her under the hood and I was like, that's a woman. I'm like, who is that? And I go, it's Rhea Ripley. And I was right. I could just tell by the size. But she's such a great talent. I do like her. I think that she just has this amazing style that is just very in your face. She also doesn't care about anything, but I like her as a winner, and I'm excited to see what she's even going to do in 2024.
And Connor, what about you? Who do you think was the best women Royal Rumble winner out of the ones that they've had?
I was gonna go Ripley, but she said that one. No, it's not Ronda Rousey. Has Liv Morgan won it? I know Charlotte's won it, right?
Yeah.
Just
Becky, I think.
Charlotte.
Wait, Asuka's won it too, right?
Yeah, she won the inaugural one, actually.
That's right. Yeah, I'd probably go with Asuka.
I'm actually going to go with Carol in the comments with Becky. Becky was actually my favorite one to win it in 2019. It says, I would like to see Carmella or Alexa Bliss pull off a Rumble win. Mella is an underdog. Bliss can hold ad, which is funny you brought that up because one of my snubs, I actually put Bliss in 2020. I would have loved to see Alexa Bliss win that in 2020. and I had her in a tie with the snub with our girl, Timeless Tony Storm, back when she was in WWE as Tony Storm. She was also in that 2020 Royal Rumble.
Oh, sure.
I think Alexa Bliss or Tony Storm would have been a great pull in that 2020 because that was the one that Charlotte Flair won. And for me, I have nothing against her, but Flair is turning into the John Cena of WWE, where she's just winning titles. And a lot of people are saying, no, it's because of her last name. I think it is partly true because because she's a Flair, but I honestly think in 2020, I was trying to see what they were trying to do. They were trying to get her to be Triple Crown because that would have been her Triple Crown moment, win that NXT title in 2020 against Rhea Ripley. But you literally could have had Alexa Bliss or Tony Storm, step up and win that Royal Rumble. So I honestly think that was a big miss on that one. And before we move on to TNA, let's go ahead and do what we did with AEW. Danny, I'll start with you. Which Royal Rumble match out of any year was your favorite?
Oh, I have two. I have the one where John Cena returned and that was the 2008 one where he had he had surgery somewhere right here and you could see the scar. That one, because I want to say he came in at number 28 or 30, one of the two.
It was 30.
Yeah, and I think he won that one. So that one definitely, because that's when I was a Cena fan. Now I'm kind of on Cena because he is stale. And the second one, I'm going to say the one when Edge came back. When Edge came back in 2020, because we didn't know this was going to happen. No one saw this coming. I actually cried during that Rumble when I saw him. That just brought tears to my eyes. And I remember, and I said this before, I was at my sister's. I was in Chicago, and she had cable at the time, and they're not wrestling fans. And I just happened to see it. I think I saw it I was following one of the news sites, and I looked up and I'm like, wait, Edge is back. And I was like, wait, what? And I just started bawling. I had to rewatch it on my phone, and I was just crying when I saw that because he is just an amazing talent.
Yeah, that was a very emotional moment too for me.
It really was.
I love Edge. I think he's a great wrestler. I think he's a great guy. So it was really cool to see him return in 2020. Connor, which one was your favorite Royal Rumble of all time?
Probably probably 2008. John Cena won. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was in that too. Hacksaw was in there too, I think. Yeah, he was probably in there. Yeah, probably 2008 for me because that was the first. I feel like that's the first Rumble I've seen. I don't know. It's hard to say which I've seen first, but that's my favorite of all time.
Right. No, and that it did have a lot of legends come back. I do remember that one because you had Jimmy Snuka come back, you had Roddy Piper come back in that Royal Rumble. So there was really fun nostalgia moments in that Rumble, and it's kind of kept on for a while, which surprised veteran legends coming back. For me, I'm gonna go with 98, the one where Stone Cold wins it, just because it was such a fun Rumble, and it had a lot of cool moments. That was when the hardcore title was always defending 24/7, and you had guys still doing the hardcore title and bringing tables out there. But you also had a moment where you're Stone Cold needs to win this. And everybody was had this, Vince had put out this bounty of whoever eliminates Stone Cold wins $100,000. It was really cool because then you had the moment where everybody's trying to attack him and Stone Cold just eliminate. He was just surviving it. So I think 98, and it wasn't just the match itself. I think the whole pay-per-view for me for Royal Rumble 98 was probably my favorite Royal Rumble pay-per-view. So that's the Royal Rumble in a nutshell. Next, we're going to move on to something really cool. I think it's probably one of the coolest concepts in the world, and that's going to be TNA's concept of Call Your Shot. So basically what this Call Your Shot gauntlet is, it's a battle royal, but it's a gauntlet-style battle royal. It's almost the same as a Casino Royale, battle royal, and the Royal Rumble kind of combined in one. Basically, what they do is it debuted in 2002, which is a lot of people don't know this. It debuted in 2002. The original winner was Ken Shamrock. It was for a NWA World Championship match, kind of like the same concept of a Royal Rumble or Casino Battle Royal. But it debuted in 2002. Ken Shamrock won it, and they actually have men's, they've had women's, or they call knockouts, and tag team. Call your shot. Basically, the concept of it is whoever wins gets to challenge whatever title they want. So that's the newer concept that they've had. And I think it's a really cool concept. I think it's probably one of the most unique concepts outside of the AEW Casino Battle Royal. I think it's really cool of, who they have in there. Like I said, it debuted in 2002 when it was NWA TNA, when they had kind of broken away when WCW went out of business. And it was just WWF at the point, WWE. So NWA and TNA kind of did their thing. And so you had the weekly shows of those kind of call your shots. You really didn't have much of it of a pay-per-view until 2005 when it debuted at Hard Justice. So I'll ask Danny if you're familiar with this match at all, if you've ever seen any of these call your shot matches.
Oh, vaguely, yes. As you're mentioning it, yes. I was living actually in Milwaukee at the time, and we had who did we have? We had Charter Spectrum for cable, and I do remember watching TNA back then. My friend Scott actually got me into it, so I do vaguely remember seeing that, which I thought was back in the day, it was a fun alternative to the heavily scripted, very predictable, sometimes boring WWE, because you already knew what was going to happen and who was going to win. I mean, we were talking about the Rumble earlier. I mean, it was obvious in 2008, Cena comes back, Cena wins the Rumble. 2022, it was obvious that Lesnar was going to come back, win the Rumble, debut or come in at number 30, win the Rumble. And it was so obvious that Rousey was going to win. So, but I do think it was a different concept. It was a very fun concept, very fresh. And I vaguely remember watching it. And then somewhere along the line, I stopped again watching TNA because the cable company that we have here wasn't carrying the channel. They dropped the channel. So kind of refresh me as we're talking about this, because some of the names, again, I do remember. The only people I really remember back then from AEW, Velvet Sky was one of them, and Angelina Love are like the two that I remember. I remember, Mr. Kennedy, loved him, and I remember Main Event Mafia.
Yeah, it was. He went actually by the name of Mr. Anderson when he debuted.
That's it. Yeah,
TNA, just because of WWE owning the rights to the name Mr. Kennedy. So it was great when he debuted, like, because everybody was like, Mr. Kennedy. He goes, Anderson. Like, the way he said it, I was like, that's awesome. Yeah. Like, it was awesome because I think it's actually his real name is Ken Anderson.
Yeah, and he's from Wisconsin. He's not far from me.
Yeah, he's from Green Bay is where he's from. So it's really cool to see that. Connor, do you remember any of the earlier call your shot matches, or any of the what was your take on them?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those. Tag team or just a regular battle royal, or the other ones I don't like is reverse battle royals. It's stupid. Doesn't make sense. Starting the battle royal from outside the ring to go in. Just Vince Russo came up with that, I think, when he was in TNA. But one of the main ones I can think of was when it was one of those. And it was crazy. Like the X Division wrestlers could really, I used to see in the crowd jump up and down in TNA. Like that, the TNA fans are really getting high spots like that. But yeah, I remember a lot of those. Probably besides the Parker one, the tag team one was really good too.
Yeah. So when the first one debuted, for a pay-per-view, they had normal ones on the television, but when the pay-per-view one debuted, they only had 10 guys in the match. Now it's grown to 30. Almost 20 to 30 people now, almost like what WWE does. And some of the guys in that first match I think it was Bound for Glory 2005. It was actually won by Rhino. And some of the guys in that match included Samoa Joe, Ron Killings, who we know as R-Truth, Sabu was in that match. Abyss was in that match. Jeff Hardy, Monty Brown, our own AJ Styles was in that match. So there's only like 10 people in that match. Now it's kind of grown for the whole thing, because now the Call Your Shot match is so grown that even women now compete in the men's battle royal. And because they've opened it up more now, it was more so like 2019 is when it started happening, where you saw more of the what they call the knockouts women's division come in to the match. That was in 2019 at the Bound for Glory, which was won by Eddie Edwards, who has been with TNA, I think, since it was rebranded to Impact. He was with them, and he won that. But, I mean, you look at some of the names of the people that came into this match. I mean, there's Jessica Havoc, Rosemary, Cody Deaner, Johnny Swinger. We just had him on the show as an interview in 2023. Jordan Grace, Hornswoggle was on there. You had Kira Hogan. You know, we're very familiar with Kira Hogan, you know, in AEW and all that. Sabu was in it. Kylie Ray, someone who's very popular on the indie scene. You know, and Eddie Edwards won that one in 2019 when they started intertwining women's wrestlers into the men's battle royal. So Danny, I'll ask you, what's your take on that? The intergender kind of battle royals. I mean, is it enjoyable? Do you think it's fun to watch?
It's interesting, and I'm getting mental visual of Joni Laurer as Chyna. I mean, she was one who, you know, when we first saw her, and we saw her debut, I don't remember, it was at a pay-per-view, but I don't remember when she's throwing Marlena around Terry Runnels around like a rag doll. I mean, here's a woman who comes in who's about 6 foot tall. We're talking built like an Amazon, and that's what she was. She was an Amazon, as Jim, and I remember Jim Ross saying she was an Amazon woman. We didn't know who she was. We didn't know what she was about, and she just stood there like this. And as women, we're constantly comparing ourselves, like, oh, what if I look like her? What if I, you know, did that? Or how did she look like that? Or, you know, where did she buy that? Because we're biologically programmed to do that. And I just remember seeing her and I was like, holy shit, she scared the crap out of me. And then when she left DX and they turned her solo and or singles, and she struck out on her own, and she, you know, was over with a massive pop. I thought it was interesting to see women in the men's Royal Rumble. I'm getting, again, Bianca Belair when she lifted, I think it was the one guy, the bigger Otis, when she picked up Otis, I don't remember when that was, and she like body slammed him or something. I think that's great. But as a woman, if I were a wrestler, I wouldn't want to be involved in it, mainly because I would just rather fight women and then maybe just smack a guy for being inappropriate at the bar. That's just me, and I've done that. So was my friend Courtney. But still, to answer your question, I think as a woman, it's kind of cool to see it from the woman's perspective when you think sociology side of it. But as a woman who, if I were a wrestler, I wouldn't want to be involved in it.
Yeah, so kind of the same thing with you. I mean, what's your take on the intergender battle royals? I mean, do you think the women definitely hold their own in it?
It depends on who the men are in it. So if you have like this really cost the TNA or Impact in the long run. Like when they started doing that, because they lost some of their big talent because of that. Not many people know that, but they lost Eli Drake, who's LA Knight. They lost Killer Cross, who's Karrion Kross. They lost like 5 or 6 big names because of that. Because some of that is not believable. Somewhat of wrestling has to be somewhat of believability. So it really depends on who's in it. Like if you have like, let's say for example, you got Jade Cargill with Peter Avalon. Jade Cargill is gonna mop the floor with Peter Avalon. But if you have someone like Kylie Ray and I don't know, Braun Strowman, there's no way you can believe that Kylie Ray can dump out Braun Strowman by herself. Uh, it just depends how it's done. For me, if it's done stupidly, like there's no way that a little Riho can dump out Brock. It's just not possible. There has to be some believability. But I do think it's funny when sometimes like China, for example, like she would mop the floor with all those guys. Eddie Guerrero being one of them all the time.
Yeah.
But I like when Nia Jax did it. She was it 29? No, it was 2020, 2021, something like that. That she went in there because like WWE hadn't done that in years. But then Nia Jax comes and she gets RKO'd, and then it's just something different. But for me, it depends on how it's done.
Yeah, I agree. There's been some cool moments in TNA where they've done it right, and then there's moments where they've done it wrong. Honestly, the next thing I can think of is this year, 2023, Jordynne Grace actually won it. If nobody's familiar with Jordynne Grace, she's been with TNA for almost about 8 years now. I mean, she's been with them for a while. She's like one of the big faces in their knockouts division, their women's division. And the last person she eliminated was Bully Ray, the Bully Ray from for Busted Open Radio. But it's really. But you look at the physique of a woman, like the pro wrestler. There's such rarities of the big strong. I mean, you mentioned it, Danny. Rhea Ripley's one of them.
Yeah,
she can just. I think she could just. If she goes toe to toe with someone like, even though they're in the same faction, she goes toe to toe with like a Dominic Mysterio, she might beat the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Someone like a Jade Cargill, like you said, Connor, if she goes against someone like the likes of Rey Mysterio, she's going to beat the hell out of him.
Right.
And I think Jordynne Grace, if you put Jordynne Grace against, I don't know, the likes of maybe like a Petey Williams back in his prime, like when he was thin, she's going to beat the hell out of him. Like, it's just the physique of that pro wrestling woman. It's changed so many times over the years, especially like in the Divas era. You had the pretty girls running around, but I think done right, I think you can keep doing it, because I think back to the day of Andy Kaufman, when he was challenging women because he knew he couldn't beat up the dudes in wrestling, pro wrestling. So he's like, I'll beat up the women. Like, that's how I'll be a villain, because he was a big pro wrestling fan. He's like, I'll be the first intergender champion. And it just rolled. And I think that concept kind of like disappeared after he passed, but came back a couple times in the 90s. Because then you saw like guys like beating up the girls, but then you saw girls like nowadays being empowered and like, dude, I'm going to beat you up now. And you see it, which is really cool to see that equality. But yeah, I could kind of see where it's like, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it has to be done right. If that makes sense to you guys. Danny, it does. I mean, what's your take on my take from that?
No, absolutely. And I'm sitting here, and as you're like, talking, I'm again seeing Rhea Ripley. I'm seeing Jade Cargill. My sister is notorious for bar fights. She really is, to a degree. And if I was in a bar fight, I would trust Rhea Ripley with my life, and I would trust Jade Cargill. And if I were Rhea Ripley and Rhea Ripley, Jade Cargill, I'm like, oh my, you just knocked him out cold with one punch. So think of like Mr. Mom when, he knocks him out with one punch. And I do think too, again, back in the day, look at Moolah, look at the other Mae Young. That was the one, God bless her souls. That's what I was thinking of. Look at them. I mean, Moolah was wrestling, I want to say in 40s or 50s. And I mean, look at her physique, and then look at, Rockin' Robin, Jumping Bomb Angel, Sherry Martel. They didn't really have physiques back then. And they had almost, like you would say, how would I put it? They almost had like the mom body, like the mom body. And then you had someone like Trish come in, who Trish still looks amazing, and she's almost 50. You had Trish come in, you had Lita, you had who else did you have? You had Tori Wilson. Who else was there? You had Nancy Benoit, Deborah McMichael. So you had like Miss Elizabeth, God bless their souls. you had different physiques. But now I'm just like trying to picture some of these girls today transported back in the 80s. Would they be able to last not only with the 80s, 90s women, but would they last with the 80s, 90s men?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting concept. Kind of what's your take on Danny's comparisons of the women before to the women now in pro wrestling?
I don't know. So much I can. Man, I know some of them. I know Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah for sure. For some reasons, I don't want to know her for. But that's because of Mean Gene Okerlund. Uh,
Gene
Rockin' Rockin' Robin was a good one. I watched some of her matches. She's really good. Yeah, it'd have been interesting to see how the times would have collided and stuff.
Yeah, no, I actually would have loved to see some of the women of the past wrestle the women today because it's just changed so much. So we'll move on to our last little bit here with kind of out of the blue. I thought it was a crazy concept. If nobody has seen it, but they need to do it. We're going to move on to what we like to call Aztec Warfare. This was a concept that was brought up on Lucha Underground, which was a syndicated pro wrestling show. The El Rey Network kind of showed it. I'm sure you can find a lot of it on YouTube if you're brave enough to watch it, because it is crazy. But it does features a lot of wrestlers that you see now today in both WWE, in AEW, and even some in TNA. But this one was very interesting to me because this is a very different concept of a battle royal. Whereas it's the same thing as TNA, call your shot. It's intergender, but the rules are different. You don't eliminate someone by throwing them over the rope. You have to pin or submit them in the middle of the ring. That is how you win the battle royal of Aztec Warfare. The prize for the Aztec Warfare is the Lucha Underground Championship. Now, there's another concept that goes underneath this, and I'm going to get your guys' take on it. In TNA, nowadays, they have the X Division champion can use Plan C, which is where they trade in their title for a world title shot. Lucha Underground had the same concept, but it was called the Gifts of the Gods title, and they can trade that title in for the Lucha Underground Championship. Danny, what do you think of this concept of lower mid-card champions trading their titles in for a world title shot?
Oh, it's like when my nephew gave me $100 at the Hard Rock Cafe and said, and he's like, Auntie, have fun gambling. And I won 310 in blackjack and then walked out with like 215 and used it to pay bills. I think it's a gamble, but it's interesting. It's an interesting concept because, who doesn't want to further their career? Who doesn't want to, further their career and taking that plunge? It's kind of like, in my field of education, you go in Wisconsin, you don't need to have, any education to be in leadership for childcare centers. It helps you. But then when you get into that position, and you don't have that education or experience, you're initially moving up, but you're taking a gamble with your career because it's not for everybody. And this concept is really intriguing. It's intriguing. It's fun. And I'm sure it makes for some, for some great, storylines to see, like, if I did this, like, let's say, okay, I'm going to enter this match and I'm going to give you my Louis Vuitton bag or something, but I like the concept. It sounds fun and it's very intriguing.
Yeah, Connor, I don't know if I know you and I have talked about on many other podcasts about Lucha Underground, how much fun it was to watch when, WWE wasn't putting out a lot of good product. And everything like that. Do you remember any of these battle royals or any of this stuff from Lucha Underground at all?
Yeah, I remember a lot of different stuff that you never really seen anywhere else. It was like a first time ever thing that they did. Yeah, I remember a lot of that. I remember it was intergender, but the way they did it was chaotic. I mean, golly, like Valerie and Eva Luis and the Rose was there. It was like everyone for themselves, really. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, you better watch out, or you might get beat up in the parking lot, type thing. But I really loved those because it was very different, And Lucha Underground had a lot of good styles of wrestling. A lot of guys that are in all major promotions now: Ricochet, Swerve, Brian Cage, Thunder Rosa. Wasn't for Lucha Underground, we may not have got to Lucha Bros. But yeah, I remember a lot of that from Lucha Underground. It was definitely something different. Which even watching, I definitely recommend finding Lucha Underground, because if you're into new things in wrestling, like beyond beyond your imagination of what a match would be, I recommend watching Lucha Underground.
Yeah, no, it was a great concept. I actually and I thoroughly enjoyed the idea. And actually, the guy who was the president and host of Lucha Underground went on to actually become the head guy over at CML, or I think CMLW or something like that. I think that's
CLW, baby.
Maybe CMLL. He's over there now as like the head guy. But he came up with this concept, and you get some of the craziest like moments in Lucha Underground, especially this Aztec Warfare. Because like Connor said, it's every person for themselves. And it was man, woman, like it was crazy. And actually the first one was won by Prince Puma, who actually went on to become Ricochet. For a lot of people don't know that. Prince Puma was in there. There was another character in there named King Cuerno, who a lot of people also doesn't know became Santos Escobar in WWE.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yes. So King Cuerno was Santos Escobar in WWE. But you had a lot of other people in there. You had Johnny Mundo, who we all know as Johnny Nitro. But whichever promotion he goes to, he changes his last name. Like Connor said, you had Ivelisse in there. You had Drago in there. You had Pentagon Jr. in there. Chavo Guerrero debuted in that very first one. There's actually been 4 Aztec Warfares. And a lot of other names have joined those. Second one had Rey Mysterio, Jack Evans, which is another one, Taya. Like Connor said, Cage was in there. Willie Mack, Chavo was back, PJ Black. And that second one was won by Montaza Cuerdo, who a lot of people don't know is an independent wrestler named Jeff Cobb, who you've also seen in AEW. So with that, Danny, I don't know if you've done a lot of research with Lucha Underground or these matches. But for that, I was going to ask, do you think it was a great opportunity for independent wrestlers to do this promotion, to kind of be seen on like a televised, whether it was pre-recorded or not, syndicated wrestling show like this? Do you think that kind of furthered a lot of people's careers?
Absolutely, I do, because, and again, I'm looking, right now, my mind, and I'm thinking, Johnny Nitro. And here's a guy who was amazing when he was paired up with The Miz. They were fun to watch. I don't know why we don't see him more in AEW. I don't know why the guy is not even signed to a contract. I don't even know why Shayna Wayne has TV time. That I'm still, again, trying to figure that out. But Johnny Nitro, amazing, because it gave them that experience to add to their style. And it's kind of in the same thing with Ricochet. Here's a guy that's underused and underappreciated in WWE. And I'd like to see, again, him in AEW. And I think, too, what it does is it just makes them well-rounded. When I was in college, I took race, class, gender, which is sociology, and a sociology-based course. And our teacher had us do a project that incorporated race, class, gender. So I'm sitting here, she's in lecture, and I'm just like writing stuff down. And I for some reason, I drew a circle, and I wrote suburb, inner city, back to suburbs again, because I started my career working, more of that, suburban environment, 2-degree parent, educated, went and worked inner city Milwaukee, went back to the suburbs. I took her to her after class, and I'm like, what do you think for a project? She just looked at it and she's like, do it. And I feel like with me too, even having that experience as an educator in both the suburbs and the inner city gives me that well-rounded skill set to add to my resume. That's what this did for a lot of those independents, because it got them noticed. It got them, the tryouts, whether it was back in the day, which was OVW, whether, it's the independents, it gives them that chance to be seen by those scouts who are going to be like, you know what, you're good at this, change this up, we can do this with you. Here's a contract for a major promotion.
Yeah, and it's great to get that, especially on something like Lucha Underground. I mean,
Yeah.
because it was something that nobody has ever seen before. For those who have seen it, and Connor,
Yeah.
my question to you kind of follows up the one I had for Danny. Out of all the names that you are familiar with Lucha Underground that perform there, who do you think's career kind of like shot to the moon and has had really good projectile and actually has a great future to it?
Probably Ricochet. He was
Yeah.
probably the one that he feels like he was the main one that was on everyone's target. He was a big like WWE was eyeing on him for a while.
Sure.
They really like they kept an eye on that for years. I would say Johnny Mundo, which it did elevate his career to a whole nother level, but he was already in WWE.
Mhm.
Talking about someone who like was not known, it was probably Ricochet, Prince Puma. He really got known. He went to New Japan. This promotion's not around anymore, but WCPW. We've Wade Barrett. Like, I actually love that promotion. Then it went out of business. Talking about Battle Royals, Kurt Angle was in it, Cody Rhodes. But Ricochet went there, and he went to Ring of Honor, and then he went all over the world. And then if it wasn't for his Lucha Underground run, he may have not have been where he is at today.
Yeah, no, and there's one name that actually does stick out to me, and we talk about him all the time because he's one of our favorites on the show. It's Swerve Strickland. He performed under the name of Killshot in Lucha Underground, and my God, it's just amazing to see what he did in Lucha and kind of see like, holy crap, that transitions very well to what he's doing in AEW.
Yeah,
it's very crazy because he had a crazy match against a guy named Marty Mouth in Lucha, and it was like a no holds bar, like no disqualification. It was like a street fight in the middle.
That's right up his alley too.
And it kind of like predated that Texas Death Match he had with Hangman Page recently.
Sure.
But you watch his match against Marty, you're like, holy crap! Like this is just brutal. Like they're just using anything and everything they can as a weapon. But they're also using wrestling as a method. Like we said earlier, Danny, about lucha libre. It's such a style and it's such a tradition. That majority of the people that perform in Lucha Underground wore masks because it's that tradition of mask wearing wrestling.
Right.
And so I thought it was just a cool concept in general, not even the Aztec warfare, but the general idea of bringing Lucha Libre on a main screen, whether it was syndicated on El Rey or, if it was picked up by another network. I mean, I would have watched it until it was gone. And unfortunately it is, but I watched it the entire time, which was crazy because at the end, when it ended, the last episode actually had me shook because the last episode actually had Wade Barrett on it. Wade Barrett was actually debuted as like this secret like leader or something on the last episode. So it was crazy to see someone like Wade Barrett, who wasn't in WWE for a while, left, did that, and then came back. Like it was just crazy to see that. But yeah, no, I think to that, I actually do think we're very thankful to have the style of wrestling that we do, but also the idea of having this kind of style. And I do recommend everybody check out Lucha Underground on YouTube. It's a really cool thing. And it had so many good things. And I think this match concept was such a cool concept where you didn't have to throw people over the rope. You had to pin them or submit them. I think that was a cool concept. So as we wind down here, I want to get your guys' last take on it. I know we talked a lot about it with Battle Royals. But the last question I have for both of you here on the show, and Danny, I'll start with you. We mentioned it as a gimmicky match. Do you think it's become too gimmicky, or do you think it's kind of like a mainstay in pro wrestling now?
Gimmicky matches in the Rumble just itself, or?
Well, just as like it's just like every promotion has the Rumble, has a Rumble match, like over the top rope kind of match now. Is that just too gimmicky because every promotion's doing it, or do you think it's basically here to stay in every promotion because it's so popular?
Well, I'm remembering as a kid watching, pro wrestling, early 80s, whatever, Battle Royals, and this was before before the Royal Rumble, I remember there was a battle royal that Andre the Giant won respectfully. And this was back in the early 80s, and there's like 15 grand on the line. I think back in the day, they were fun before the Royal Rumble came about because it was unexpected. It was different. It wasn't as predictable. You didn't know who won. And nowadays, you can pretty much just guess, even with the Rumble, like when we were watching it, when Rousey won and when Brock Lesnar won, my husband and I were just sitting here watching it, and he goes, Lesnar's going to win this, guaranteed. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, just watch. And he rolled his eyes. I rolled mine. Then Rousey wins. And he's like, Rousey's going to win this one. And I'm like, oh, dear God, help us. Sure enough. And I look back at just the change of wrestling within the last like 40 years and how much it's just changed with, the spoilers, the internet, just everything else. And I think back then it was fun. Now it's become everyone wants to do it because WWF, WWE does it. Let's do it. Here's a prize. But then your storylines following it also have to make sense. You can't, again, do somebody like Lance Archer, make him a winner and book him like complete crap. It just does not work that way. So I feel like the goal and the purpose of picking someone to win, what's their direction behind it? Where are they going moving forward with that? Or is it just a win with an outcome, just to have an outcome?
Yeah, Connor, and that's the kind of thing that kind of take on that. I mean, the same question. Like, do you think like the Rumble, any Rumbles, like are just now, hey, let's reward you, or do you think there needs to be a concept behind it?
I think in WWE, it's treated as a traditional thing because they only do it one time a year. Or if they do it on a Raw, it'll be like a 15, 20-man battle royal for a title shot or something. But I think in WWE, it's still a big thing, and it's taken serious. I think in AEW, it can be used as a gimmicky match.
Mm-hmm.
Like people, like on top rope, and you're doing a dive off top rope, and then you're doing it onto the floor when you should be eliminated, but you're not eliminated, and then everything's just chaos, and everyone's outside the ring before the match even starts, and people's going outside it comes off really gimmicky. That it's just a charade of things, and I agree with Danny that like everyone, it seems like Hangman winning it, he got a push. Lance Archer, like they've always booked him like crap. I said last night, I'm sick of the big guys always losing. Like the match with Archer and Darby. Lance Archer tears Darby up the whole match, and then Darby does one move, and then no.
Why didn't you tell me
that? It seems like Connor got distracted. It's fine.
Yeah, so. He's got technical difficulties.
Yeah.
This is flash clean now. Can you read it?
What I was saying, I was really interrupted by people don't know how to knock.
You were basically saying like how someone like a Darby Allin can knock out a
it was on Collision, and Lance Archer whoops him all over the ring. Then Darby does one move and wins. Like come on! I mean, Darby's had enough. He has over 100 wins, and Lance Archer, he has a lot of wins, but against a lot of jobbers and low tier, severe low tier. I mean, how many dollars so long? The only big win I could Lance Archer is Jon Moxley when he beat him for the Pan Wrestling United States Championship. I think it was in 2021. He won that. Yeah, I think in AEW can be good. He had some rules in the past. I think as of late, it's been treated as a gimmicky type match.
Yeah, and you know what? I grew up watching the Royal Rumble, and it was always fun every year. And like you said, Danny, like it was very unpredictable because we didn't have the dirt sheets and the spoilers and everything like that. It was just enjoyable. I do think that a lot of other smaller promotions does take advantage of that idea to kind of have like a battle royal, just to, hey fans, we're gonna have a battle royal, see who wins. Like, and the prize is small. Like it's like, oh, this person can win $100,000 or $10,000
Right.
for the Battle Royal. There's really like nothing behind it, like what the Royal Rumble does, where it's like, hey, you're guaranteed a world title shot WrestleMania if you win. Or even like the call your shot. Like I said, the concept comes up where they're like, hey, you win whatever title you want, it's yours if you win. There's a concept behind that. Even with the Casino Battle Royal, they need to do like, hey, you win, you get a push. It was like same thing with the Face of the Revolution match, where they get the brass ring, they can cash that brass ring in for a title. So I do believe that most of the time the Battle Royals can be used as gimmicks, but also be used to further storylines and further push talent, especially fresh talent that deserve the push. So with that, I think we're going to wind down. I do appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Talk about this topic. It was really fun. I had fun doing more research, even though I was kind of familiar with a lot of things. I still wrote down notes. I was like, here's the pinpoints I want to talk about. And I always thank you, Danny, for always commenting about doing your research and homework for the episode. So I appreciate that. With that, Danny, do you have any final words at all?
Yeah, question for you guys. So it's Rumble season, and we're 2 weeks away from the Royal Rumble. I am not taking any babysitting clients that day. I'm blacked out. I will be here watching the Rumble. Hopefully not falling asleep, but I'll be definitely watching the Rumble. And S will be on vacation in Louisiana, so I don't have to go to work the next day, so I can drink too on top of that. Who do you think, let's do our predictions now. Who do we think is going to win the Rumble, men's Rumble?
Me,
Yeah.
November 25th, I still had that 1% that CM Punk would return.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have the last percent to what's left in the Rumble match. I'm going CM Punk.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the storyline itself, it writes itself. It's CM Punk. You don't bring that guy back and not give him a big win in his WWE return. You get Punk to win. And I'm actually going to give you my storyline for it right now, even though the rumors are going. But storyline-wise, Punk wins the Rumble. Okay. At Elimination Chamber, you have The Rock versus Roman.
Okay.
You have Roman winning with outside interference from both Solo and Jimmy.
Yeah.
You have Cody Rhodes winning the Elimination Chamber to face Roman. At WrestleMania, you have Punk versus Rollins.
Okay.
Roman versus Cody 2.
Okay.
You have Punk win the title from Rollins.
Okay.
You have Damian Priest cash in, beat Punk, and take the World Heavyweight title. That's where you cash it in.
Okay.
Give Damian Priest that big push.
Yeah.
And you have Cody beat Roman after The Rock takes care of both Solo and Jimmy Uso on the outside, leaving Roman all by himself. So that's the story I'm going to write for how they're going to finish everything.
Okay, I like it. Okay. Do you think we see Jade at the Rumble? Because there was a rumor that was not properly trained in AEW.
No, you're not going to see her at the Rumble. You're going to see her on NXT. You're going to see her debut at NXT at some point. I don't know when, but you're going to see her debut in NXT because she's still at the Performance Center. She's still training. She's still trying to get that WWE style wrestling down. So she's still at Performance Center. So you might see her, which is crazy. You might see her at the NXT pay-per-view Vengeance.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is happening here in my town, which is happening in Clarksville at the local arena that they're having it here that Sunday. So I might buy tickets just to go check it out because I've never been to an NXT
I'm actually
show.
going to that. I'm actually going to that. I bought tickets.
For the F&M Bank Arena, yeah. So I don't think she debuts. I think she may debut there at Vengeance. Connor?
Okay. Who do we think's winning the women's Rumble?
For me, sorry, it's chaos in my house.
I had chaos today.
I'm gonna go wild, but it's probably not gonna happen. But I'm gonna go Candice LeRae.
Interesting. Okay. Adam.
Becky Lynch is going to become your 2-time Women's Royal Rumble winner. I think Becky Lynch wins it. I think I think she, if it's not her, then it's Bailey. Bailey pulls
Yeah.
up the upset. She's never won it before.
Okay.
Or you have a surprise entrant come in and win it. So I think that's my guess on that.
I'm gonna go. I can almost see Becky winning. Bailey's never won a Rumble. I would almost say Zelina Vega. I don't know why, but for some reason I can just see her winning it, even though she's this tiny little microscopic thing. I think my S is my nanny kid, and she is probably taller than Zelina Vega. Do you think we'll have any call-ups from NXT that are going to be joining main roster? I'm hoping Braun Breaker comes at some point.
Plenty. You're going to have, actually, in that women's rumble, I can already name you 2 women that are probably going to be called up. Tiffany Stratton is going to be called up.
Yeah.
Going to be participating in that Royal Rumble. And I believe Cora Jade are going to be the 2 women on NXT that get called up. Either that or Roxanne Perez, even though she was already part of a Rumble last year.
Yeah.
I think she gets pulled up again.
Yeah. And the interesting thing with the whole Cora Jade is that she's been hanging out with Punk lately. And supposedly Punk is her idol. And I'm just like, okay. She just, and I tweeted, and I said this on a chat, and I go, she gives me kind of Nikki Bella vibes. And I jokingly said this, that she does what Nikki did when she dated Cena for the status and the power. Cora Jade kind of seems like that. Like she gives up that type of vibe.
But her and Braun are so in love, though. Her and Braun
They broke up.
So in love. Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Oh God, is Cora gonna throw a wrench in CM Punk's marriage to AJ?
I wonder if we're gonna see a little Miss AJ pop up at the Rumble.
That's another rumor too. That
yeah.
AJ Mendez may show up. AJ Lee, she might show up at the Rumble. They showed videos of her training with Punk in a ring. So
yeah.
I mean,
she could be the surprise entrant.
Could be a surprise entrance. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, really good. Appreciate you guys definitely coming on. Connor, do we have any announcements that we need to share?
Just at next Saturday, ECW legend Blue Meanie will be on here. I'm working on a time. It should be kind of like our Brandon Cutler interview during the afternoon, like 12, 1 o'clock ish, something like that. I need to get with him on that, but it is next Saturday. We will be posting a graphic for it on our socials probably this weekend. Start promoting for it. Besides that, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, again, thank you guys for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you everybody for watching, commenting, joining us. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to us. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitch. We are on Spotify. We're everywhere. We're on Twitter.
We're here.
We may even be on Instagram. I don't even know. I forget all the socials we're on. But yeah, no, we're everybody. Make sure you guys share everything with us. And also, just love pro wrestling. It's good stuff. And also make sure you join us tomorrow night when we do the live Rampage reaction. That will be tomorrow night. And then Saturday, we will be doing live reactions to Collision. And then, of course, every Wednesday we're here for Dynamite. Again, if there's nothing else, as always, thank you guys. And for now, good night.
Night.